Hey, hey.
Hello, friends.
Hi.
Oh, God.
So seductive.
Oh,
So, I kind of want to kick off this episode real quick with a couple of things from the last one. All right. First of all, I didn't really like the video on the number 9, Shane. I'm sorry.
Boo.
Oh, shots
all right.
fired.
I mean, that's
I
why the
haven't refreshed-
IQ has a range, you know.
Well, see, that was kind of my problem with it. It was just one of these things where, they're adding up the individual digits of a whole bunch of scenarios that happen to be 9. I feel like you could make that same video on the letter 8 and 7.
The letter A.
I don't know. It's just like, it was just kind of just very Now, I haven't refreshed my memory on what Veritasium talks about
I
with
thought
the
that
number
was.
37.
I thought that was. I thought the same thing about number 37. This guy just
Really?
happens to see the 37 everywhere, and it's like they're supposing that things make sense in this. And I think, look, if you think it's like a placebo. If you believe the letter H is everywhere, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, right?
Right.
It's like you're just drawn more to that because someone told you this. Whereas with the number 9, there are like inside of geometry, inside like these things aren't just made up. They discovered that there's this supposedness. They didn't create it and say, look, find 9 in other places. They're saying like, look at how this all kind of works together. Anyway, right?
Yeah.
I know. Simon's like itching and he's cringing. He has an
but even
opinion.
like the video got me at the beginning where they were talking about dissecting the angles of a circle, and it starts out and it's there's 360 degrees in a circle, and then you start breaking that up like you had done on the previous episode. The sum of the digits is 9, or you have to do some weird stuff to reduce it down to the number 9, whatever. And it's like, do you think that angle was arbitrary? And so for fun, I was like, no, I bet it wasn't. We weren't really sure where that 360 number came from when we were recording last episode, so I looked it up. And according to my, granted, very quick research, this was from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, I think from the Babylonian period, where as a society, they used a base 60 numbering system.
Qubits or something, right?
Yes, and like 360 was a very convenient multiple of 60, as well as having some additional factors for 3 and 6 and other kind of integral
12,
numbers.
5, 10. Yep.
Yeah, it's like that's
15.
why there's 360. But if they had chosen 150, like that entire argument for this divine symmetry of the number 9 argument just kind of like, I don't know. So there's a little bit of that stuff. Now, the other thing that we don't need to keep talking about 9s and 37s. We all know that 42 is the best number.
Yeah, we can't talk about 9 because this is episode 10.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, welcome to episode 10. Cue music.
Foo Fighters concert that Simon missed.
Oh yeah, remember that.
Of course.
The other correction is on myself. I was totally freaking wrong when I was talking about the nearest planet that would be orbiting a star in the Goldilocks zone. And I think I mentioned millions of light years. Yeah, no, that's totally not accurate. So
Millions of
quick
miles.
research.
I think that's kind of what you meant.
Trillions of miles, actually.
Well,
One
that's
light year
still
is
millions.
It's 5.88 trillion miles. So we'll
Just
get into some of the
thousands of
numbers here.
millions.
Yeah, millions
Yes.
and millions of millions.
Thousands of billions, to be in fact. So it turns out, according to this quick research, that the Alpha Centauri system, which many of us have kind of heard of, is the closest solar system that has a planet, an exoplanet, that orbits that star in the habitable zone, Proxima Centauri b. So I guess hypothetically, I was totally wrong. We're just over 4 light years away for the closest planet that could have essentially liquid water, at the surface, amongst many other habitable qualities. Now,
I'm itching. I'll let you go, but I'm itching
finish,
on this point. All right.
I'm just going to number nerd out here for a second for fun. So I was curious, most people you hear like 4 light years. Oh man, we could get there, right? No, not quite. So 1 light year is 5.88 trillion miles, or for all of our smart international listeners, 9.46 trillion kilometers.
Oh,
So
it's just around the
4.2 light
corner.
years is 24.696 trillion miles. The fastest spacecraft that humans have put out into space at this point is the... Oh no, where'd my tab go? Polar something's Parker Solar Probe, and it is going roughly 400,000 miles per hour right now due to gravitational assists going around the sun. 400,000 miles an hour. That's pretty fast, right? A plane is only doing
Gets through brake
500
pads.
miles an hour plus minus at altitude. Yeah. Yep. So we're about to blow your brains, right? At 400,000 miles an hour, you could get from like Los Angeles or San Francisco to New York in like 20 seconds. All this stuff. Okay. How long would it take us to get to Proxima Centauri B if we were doing 400,000 miles an hour? Well, unfortunately, that speed is only like 0.05% of the speed of light. So, doing that math, it would take you over 7,000 years to still get to that planet.
Ouch. I think I'll be dead
Ouch.
by then.
Yeah. So,
All right.
like, doing this, I just, to conclude, the one
No.
statement I think I did make correctly in our last episode is that space is freaking huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that just
I
boggles
agree.
my mind, right? Like,
So-
the closest thing is 7,000 years away if we
But
were
if
going...
that, Steven, if
400,000
that boggles your
miles.
mind, your mind isn't yet boggled. So what? So let me. This is where I'm itching. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. All right, you're going by human technology, where we've only gotten to space in the last like less than 100 years. All right.
You're
What
right.
if there's
You're right.
civilizations that are already trillions of years old? What if there are technologies where they discovered their space trillions of years ago? You have no idea. Like, that's how big the universe is, right? You just said
I
how
do
big
believe in the
space
Big
is,
Bang
right?
Theory, so that would be less than trillions of years. But we could be into billions. You're right.
Anyway, just because you believe it doesn't mean it's true also. And the same for me, just because that's what you believe, right? Whether it's Big Bang or it's aliens that are billions or trillions of years old, doesn't matter. But also, like, the physics that we know and understand and relate to are really, we have nothing else to compare it to. They're really only pertinent to us. And we're only like saying, well, it's like, what's that question? Like, you're trying to judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree. Like, we're looking at this thing through our lens, not thinking like, well, what about these other lenses that could exist? And not that
Right.
just because it hasn't been yet proven. I mean, the speed of light wasn't even known until a couple hundred years ago or whatever it was. So who knows what we'll know in a couple hundred years, 500 years, next year,
Of course.
So I'm not saying that, look, nobody knows anything. We just kind of go with like whatever has the majority opinion that everyone agrees to. But that is like, to me, that's the wrong camp to be in. It is true for a lot of things, but it's not the right camp to always be in. And I think with something as big as space is, you do need to like take everything with a grain of salt, a cup of tea, British, is it black tea? Is it black tea?
You can have black tea. I'll allow it.
What are you drinking today? Is it coffee?
No, I've had a milky... I like milk in my tea and a little bit of sugar. Good old English breakfast.
Okay. Is it
wife
American
would
black
approve.
tea? Is that just coffee?
I can't drink tea black unless it's one like peppermint tea or
I like
what's the
peppermint.
other one? Chamomile.
No, I didn't mean like not with sugar or cream. I meant like actual black tea.
Oh, right.
versus green tea versus
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had black tea.
What? Really?
English breakfast is a form of black tea, is it?
I was
not?
gonna say, yeah, I thought so.
Well, these names are all new to me. Do you? I didn't
What?
even know it was called English breakfast.
Let me teach you about your culture real quick. Hang on a second.
Oh my
Wait,
goodness.
the Brits are like known for their tea and enthusiasm of tea, and you're like, I don't know what black tea is. I just don't. That's like no sugar. You know, I like sugar. Of course, I don't like black tea.
No, I think you're mixing things up. I think the majority of Brits will go, it's either Yorkshire tea or PG tips. Like, there's no,
So now you're
real
speaking.
understanding of like what's in the bag, what's the leaf that this is made of. Nah, there's none of that. It's
Wow.
it's a mixed tea. It's a mixed leaf tea. It's a blend, and they just shove it in a bag in a machine, and you get the brand. You don't get the type.
Wow, that's interesting. This is news to me. How about you, Steven?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed right now in the Brit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
I thought you guys were cultured.
What's your
but-
come on,
I'm cool
Simon?
with it.
What's
No.
your brand of tea then? What's your go-to brand?
Well, being a Brit, I have tried all of the brands of tea. So I can't speak for everybody, but you know, I grew up in like
Do it.
a dodgy part of the world, and these things. I'm an uncultured swine, so you know, don't expect these fineries from me. But there are a lot of people who pay a lot more attention to it. But for me, it was just like growing up. I think we always had like there was this brand called Tetley and PG Tips, and then at some point I got Yorkshire tea. You know, like we ended up with a Yorkshire tea, and Yorkshire tea amongst the unwashed masses is like the fine tea. You know, it's like
That's
the
the,
expensive one in the supermarket. So that's a good one, right? And you better like it because it costs like 1.5 times more than the other ones or something like that. And that is actually it's a good tea. Like for me, that's a nice. I can drink it every day, multiple times a day. I'm not, you know, because it's mostly pre-bagged and things. I just shove it in a cup or in a teapot and let it stew.
And then you ruin it with sugar and milk.
Yeah.
Not saying that ruins it. I'm saying you
I mean, you
alter
did say ruin.
what. Okay, and now I'm correcting. Be offended. I don't really care.
So you ruin it. I'm not actually saying ruin, but I am saying ruin.
I'm
it.
correcting myself. Accept my correction or not. That's up to you. But you change what the company intended for you to drink, or is that just known? Like, is that what everybody just does? Does a majority of the people, they buy the tea and then they add whatever they want to? And why sugar over honey or whatever, you know?
I think it's
Asked by
because
a
I
stevia
don't know
user.
anything about the history of why tea is the way that it is in the UK, but I think most people would assume you're going to have milk in your tea. Like that's a given. And I think, you know, it's unusual for people to say, oh no, black tea. I want a black tea. That's probably because they've got some intolerance to milk, you know, or lactose or something. And then sugar is just like, you know, some people just find the ordinary teas, let's say black teas, if that's what they actually are, just quite bitter or, you know, hard to enjoy without a bit of sweetness. And table sugar, you know, what's it, refined white cane sugar is like been a standard on the British tables for probably since a very long time ago. So it's just been that. But yeah, you know, people, they'll squirt anything in their tea. So I can't make the rules, but that's where I'm at. I'm
How
sorry
about
if I disappoint you.
Twinnings, or however you say that.
Accept the apology.
Twinnings, Twinings.
Yeah,
Brand?
I
You
don't
like
know.
their English
I'm
breakfast?
also terrible for pronunciation of those. I haven't. I like the flavored teas that they have, peppermints and fruit teas and things. They're okay. Like they're quite good, but I've
Yeah.
never gone. Yeah, I've never gone an extended period with their kind of ordinary English breakfast. Maybe
Yeah.
in a hotel or something you'll experience it and it's fine. But it's
My
just
friends, how did we go from talking about the expansiveness of the universe to English breakfast tea in the span of 27 seconds? This is why
Dunno.
people like our show, because you just never know what's right around the corner. We can be.
Speaking of people liking our show, let's get to this earlier
Yeah, let's
in
do
the
it.
show.
Wait. We haven't talked about all the videos that we were supposed to watch, like homework.
What was the other one?
Oh, well, there was a
Rainbows.
UFO one, I thought.
Oh,
and Rainbows,
right.
did you watch it?
Yeah.
Because you're British, we assumed you didn't.
I didn't need to because I've seen enough rainbows in my life. Like,
There's just
But-
a fundamental birthright.
They were black rainbows.
I know how they're made because I've seen them many times. It's like, it was so good. I actually really enjoyed
Cool,
that video.
right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was brilliant. And the thing was, I was trying to tell my wife about this one part in the video, which is kind of tangential to rainbows specifically. But there's this guy, I can't remember his name, back in like late 1800s, who did this test
LeVar
because
Burton.
no,
Oh.
but he created this test to capture like mist in a jar so that he could reproduce what are they called, the kind of shadow based glowing rainbow effect that happens on clouds and fog and things. Glories, I think they're traditionally called. And in doing that, just because he was like, these are great, when he was like hiking up the mountains in Scotland or something, just because he was doing that, he discovered something else. And he was like, oh, this is even better. And then he got a Nobel Prize for it. You know, it's just like, man, science is freaking great. And I was trying to tell that to I was like, look, and I was doing something really stupid. I was like smacking this water jug that we've got in the kitchen, and it's got a cork top that sits in it. And I was like using the cork to hit the handle, and it was making this really nice resonant sound. And when we put water in it, because it has water normally, put water in it, the water all like shakes around in this like in a really uniform way. And then if you hit it hard enough, little drops of water will like bounce off the side of the glass and skip towards the middle across the surface of the water, like they're separated, and they literally dance together towards the middle, and then they kind of combine and disappear. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this is fascinating. Like, now I want to become a scientist and like set up a lab and try and discover what these things are. You know, why does the sound in this particular jug do, you know, just like that whole meta of, I want to be a scientist now, because I'd watched the rainbow video. And I was like, maybe I'm going to come across some scientific discovery, you know, like maybe I'll invent wormholes because of this little IKEA jug.
Because I make
that I'm,
water
like,
droplets
smacking in my
dance on the
kitchen.
surface.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how some of the greatest discoveries happen, you know? You start down one area of interest and it just keeps branching off, and you end up with something
Like the
revolutionary. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean,
that's how we
like
end
the
up.
rainbow one, I just really like that video because it really got to like the core of who I am as like an engineer, and I did lots of physics in school. I just love having such an ordinary thing as a rainbow, but then like super deep diving into how it actually works. And I just love
it was
doing that with so
amazing.
many things. So that's why I really liked that rainbow video. You know, there's some stuff that is like so high level anyway, that as you learn about it, I don't know, like it's still very fulfilling, but there's just something about like standard stuff you see all the time, and then really getting into the nitty gritty of how it works. I absolutely love.
So actually, that may segue into something I wanted to talk about that old Craigie Poo and I discovered yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Craig's the man. He says hi, by the way, to everybody.
Thank you.
Craig.
Craig's awesome. So
We're gonna
are
have
you
to get him on the
familiar-
show at some point. 'Cause
He's down. I'm sure he's down anytime. Maybe not anytime, but I'm sure he'd be down. you guys are familiar with the R helper, ARR class facade in
Array helper.
Laravel?
Yeah, array facade.
Okay. R get takes up to 3 parameters. 2 are required. The first parameter is an array. The second parameter is the key of the array that you're trying to get. And that's what it's supposed to do is you do R get, R : get. Here's an array. Give me the key of whatever it is. And it gives you that result. What we discovered through a series of 500s he was getting from Bugsnag is that if you pass null as a second parameter, what would you expect? Don't look it up. What would you expect the return to be? If you pass null as the key that you're trying to get, what would you expect the return to be? Oh, and the third parameter, by the way, is a default. So if it doesn't find that key in the array, then it would return whatever this default is.
Can a PHP array have null as a key? I
Yeah.
don't think that you can.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, there's no way. That's too JavaScript-like. I don't think. Can I say that? That's like a
You know, Jobs. There's
one of the weird
thing-
little tidbits that JavaScript will do. But come on, you're telling me
there's
it
this
can
great
have...
talk from years ago about the weird stuff that JavaScript will do, and I've got to I'll find it and send you the link or something because it was brilliant.
I feel like you're actually searching for the answer here, though. So put the keyboard down for a minute,
Okay.
Simon.
No,
What do you
I
think?
was just gonna see if I can make an array with null as a key. That's
I'm not
all.
cheating. I'm
So
not cheating.
I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised that. Well, I guess a lot of the kind of slightly older code in Laravel didn't have, PHP's strict typing yet. So I was going to say I'm surprised that you weren't getting a invalid argument exception because the second parameter on that function in Laravel's get function required a string. So clearly it's probably untyped, which is why you're allowed to pass null and not get a PHP runtime exception or error. So what do I think that it would return?
If I didn't highlight this as a point and you were just coding away, what would you? I mean, first of all, you
probably
might
the
not even
default.
expect.
right.
I would assume the default, and if the
Or-
default isn't present, I would say null.
That's what I would expect. And you, Simon? You in the same camp?
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly, that's not the answer. The right answer
Is
is
it?
with the R get helper. If you pass null as the key, you are returned the entire array.
Oh.
Okay, so you said that, Simon, like you might have. I cannot think of an edge case where that would be the default way.
Helpful.
Like I could see
No,
maybe
but
a
if
fourth
you
parameter
call-
if that's what you should do. Like, but
If you call array get without any parameter, that's gonna pass null as the first one by default. As
What?
the key.
Wait, what?
I'm not reading the docs, but what you're saying is if you pass an unnamed first parameter that's
No.
equal to
But
null.
the first
No,
the
second.
first
The second-
parameter is the array. The second is the key. If you pass null for the key that you're trying to get off of the array,
Okay, sorry. So the null is the
yeah, is the key
the
that you're
second
looking
parameter.
for.
Yeah.
The
So-
needle.
So if null is the second parameter, then and that works and it returns the entire array, then that's like calling array get with the first parameter just being the array that you're passing in, right? Effectively.
What? I don't understand this.
You think about a function that's just got one parameter, but it's an optional parameter, and the default value that you set it as optional as being is null. Inside of the function, you can then check for null and behave differently, right? So it might be like a string type, but it's an optional type. So it's a nullable type, and null is the default value of that.
Is this how you feel when I talk about aliens? 'Cause I don't understand.
I think this is how Stephen feels when you talk about 9. No, okay. What I'm trying to say is there are some functions within Laravel at least, and so I think this is a well-established pattern of where you can pass null, and you will get back the underlying object. So if you take like the session helper, for example, if you pass null to the session function, you will get the session manager back, not a specific value from the session. If you pass nothing to one of the other, like whatever it's called.
Okay, but just because that's kind of like possibly a norm with PHP things, why are we okay accepting that? I can't think of ever when that would be what you want for an array. If I'm giving you an array and I say, give me the key of null, which doesn't exist, just let's throw the JavaScript stuff to the side for a second. If null, there's no key that's called null. Give me why would you think ever to give, well, no, here's the whole array back. You find it again. I can't think of any time that would be the desired effect. What good is that anyway? What is that? What, what?
So I think you're hitting on something that's kind of ambiguous on what the intent of the developer is. Like if I pass you null as if it was a key, and there is no item in the array with null as a key, then you're saying you expect null to come back as the value.
Or the default.
Right? Yeah, or the default value that you've passed into the function. So whatever the default is in that case. So fine, that's one. But the other could be that I want it to behave like I passed nothing. And this is like not null. I mean, literally, I've passed nothing to the function.
Okay.
So if you had passed nothing to the function, what would you expect it to do?
A
So the only thing that you've passed into the function is the array.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't.
He's saying R get array, right.
Whether you can or not in this case is irrelevant.
Yeah, okay.
I
would
I'm
still
asking
expect
a theoretical question.
a null to come back. I would not found. Throw an exception. Do something besides give me back the whole array. Because what if it's an associative array and my testing is all revolving around, like, if the return value is an array, then do some logic thinking that I'm giving you a key where the value is another array, and that's what I would expect to have back is some array. Now I can't even test for that, right?
Well, I mean, I think you're hitting on a good point. In this particular case, like, because the default is probably, the default for the default is probably null, right? The signature of the function is probably like the third parameter.
That's what I would guess,
null.
yeah.
Then I agree with you. In this case, I'd expect to receive null back, or it more properly, an error, because you shouldn't be able to call this function without a key parameter, right? Because you should be interrogating the array. So, but it leads to me as like there must be some use case that's come up either internally to the framework or elsewhere where somebody's gone, sometimes we just want to call array get, and we don't know whether we're going to pass a null or we're not going to pass anything, and we just want to get the array back, and that's how it has to be because that's what somebody's done years ago.
Yeah, my guess is two things. One, they maybe initially thought about this in the context where the array get helper is sort of like walking the tree of keys, right? Especially because it's intended to be used with dot syntax. So you could say, well, okay, whatever, you guys know dot syntax to like achieve the key, right? So you're kind of almost using it to filter down this associative array into a more and more specific location in memory. But if you pass null, that's sort of like don't walk the key tree at all. Stop at the very first, which is the whole object.
The whole array.
Oh, okay, the whole array. In a normal language, what would be still probably an object. That's my thinking, and so that's how they coded line 337 of the array helper, because it's literally saying in Laravel's code base is null key return array, right? So it's like truly, it's not where they didn't really think about this, and the null is getting casted to an empty string, and then it's trying to find the key within the array of an empty string, and that's returning something, and then like they explicitly are checking for null and returning the array back to you. So this was a conscious decision by somebody.
So let me.
And my thinking is,
I have some breaking news as of 6 minutes ago. Let me add this.
His PR
So
it's
to
like,
fix this
so
has been
Craig-
accepted.
V11.41 change.
Craig did a PR. Taylor Otwell replied 6 minutes ago.
Oh.
He said, "I'll think about how to work this in a bit more smoothly. Thumbs up."
Huh?
Oh,
So,
I mean,
so there
it
you
had
go.
to be a V12 thing because that's very
maybe.
breaking
okay.
change.
There's two
Passive force parameter.
adjacent things that kind of feel quirky here to me, and why this is like none obvious. Because of what you've just said, Stephen, the dot notation. That's a really important point. If you think
Doesn't
of it,
work.
like I'm passing a dot notated string in to try and traverse this array. If your keys have dots in them, it breaks. Like a dot is a completely valid key string. Like you can have something dot something as a key name in PHP, but with dot notation in play, it's impossible to get that. And null is one of those weird values. Like null can be an array key in PHP.
It actually can't, at least not in PHP 8.3. I just did it, and PHP will automatically typecast it to an empty string.
Right. So that's my point. It doesn't throw an error.
It does not throw an error.
Translating.
It will just
right. So
yeah,
it can be accepted. It's not a valid key as null. But what happens then is you could have null values used as keys, and they will be turned into this one empty string, and they'll whichever one comes last is going to overwrite that entry. So how do you put null in the dot notated string?
Wait, what? What is your question?
Well, like
how do you convert
if
null
you're,
to a
if you're
dot notated
constructing
string?
a dot notated string to interrogate the array, and one of the nested items in the array was like a null empty string, like just like it's an empty string key, but it's a string key. How do you, with dot notation, get that value?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess my initial thinking is, it's again just sort of an empty string, and you aren't really traversing down a key tree. I don't know. Don't put me on the spot like
I
this,
don't.
Simon.
I don't think you can. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can get that value. Well, I'm trying to run it now and see what happens. Okay, maybe you can just put a dot with nothing after it. So if your key dot notation string ends with just a dot, maybe it will treat that as an empty key name.
It's
Just
funny because I
I'm
feel like what
testing.
you're getting at a little bit is touches a little bit on like the difference between
Yeah. Go on,
making
sorry.
coding choices that are really easy to work with for like 99.9% of use cases, right? Where we are allowed to just pass in a dot notated string into this array helper, and then it will try to explode on that dot character and then walk down this access, right, the nested array via that key.
But those
Versus
are limited
something a little
areas.
bit more robust.
Oh,
Our
There we
first guest
go.
on the show making an appearance 30 minutes into it. I love it.
welcome.
Hi, guys.
Sup, bro?
Sorry, let me finish my thought really quick. Shit, if I can remember where I was going.
Dot notation exploding on dot notated.
Oh yeah, versus passing in an object, right? And your object could help you ensure that, like, in certain scenarios, you're still able to use what is effectively a dot style syntax in order to arrive at a nested key, but you could still work with it in a way that, like, you were retarded and your array had keys with dots in them and you were still trying to access them via dot notation, you could do it. That was... I think the takeaway here is don't pass null to this function and don't use periods in your array keys if you plan to uh-oh, what's going on here?
It's all right. Craig's experiencing the learning curve we all had initially live. So
Right.
that's okay.
Great.
It's okay.
He thought it was just going to be another Google Meet.
Yeah. So my other takeaway is I'm a big fan of DTOs.
Do you know
That's
what?
like-
Oh yeah, sure.
Honestly, one of my first code smells. Whenever I get into, I'm really sorry if I've worked with any of you guys with code bases that have this, but if I jump into a modern code base with PHP and there are these complicated array structures that are being used as lazy
Oh, yeah.
object syntax,
Take
that
the
is
time
my
to do
first
DTO.
sign that I'm just like, oh no, this is going to be brutal. So yeah, my other recommendation is use DTOs.
So Craig, can you hear us okay?
What's up?
Yes, I
yeah,
can.
Craig,
And
are you good?
We do. Yes,
Can
sir.
you guys hear me?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody was wearing earbuds, and I felt left out. And then I was like, "Wait, what if my audio is like echoing and screwing up this whole podcast?" I don't want to be the person that does that. So,
We have AI to fix it. You're good.
This is true.
Or aliens. I mean, one and the same.
we're back on that topic. Okay.
Let's not
No.
go there.
Speaking of aliens, Taylor Otwell just replied to your PR from yesterday. And we were discussing this, and I'm like, let's just bring Craig in. And he's down, you're down. So here we
Yeah.
are.
So, I'm happy that he replied, and I'm happy that he's considering it. I don't know how I should feel about him insinuating that I'm not smooth, but that's fine.
Ooh.
Not smooth. What is? give
So
us
he said, I'll
context
think
here.
about how
What's
to work
happening?
this in a bit more smoothly. So more
Oh,
smoothly
well, I mean,
than
it'd
his
be a
PR.
breaking. It'd be a breaking change. So
Pass a fourth argument, nullable fourth argument of what you should pass if null is a set. You know what I mean?
No.
Why not? Then you're not
No.
breaking anything. How else are you going to make it backward compatible?
Oh no. Functions getting more and more parameters is not the. Not
And
the
to be
answer.
fair, what I PR'd was not a change to the framework. It was just an update to the docs to say basically like to warn
Oh,
people.
what?
Yeah.
I gave up on the I read a couple of the old PRs to change the actual behavior, and I was like, there's no way he's going to accept this, so I'm not even going to bother.
Oh, this is just a docs
Jokes
change.
This is
That
literally
changes
just a docs
everything.
He's not going to accept that either.
Well, I
Oh,
figured the
man.
docs change at least had a chance at being accepted, and it seems like he's going to. And again, doesn't like my wording, but that's fine.
Craig, did you add a code sample that used some comments, and they were not 3 lines, and each line was not
did.
3 characters less
He
than the
did.
line preceding? Because that's an immediate red flag for Taylor. He'll toss it out.
I don't think I think it's literally just a.
How are you going to
Like
buy
a-
Limbo with that kind of comment styling?
That's fair. That's fair.
So this is just a docs change. Well, I
yeah,
think that's a
because-
worthy change, because that's really what we're getting at here, right? This was just like, it's like a preference thing. Like both solutions kind of work. It's just like the fact that you guys.
Yeah.
I'm with both Shane and Craig on this. I feel like the currently coded behavior does not feel natural. It doesn't feel like what I would expect. But therefore, just having the docs updated would be, I guess, good enough.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
No. Please.
Well, all I was going to say was, like, while I think that it is not at all expected behavior, I also don't think passing a fourth argument for this incredibly specific edge case is a reasonable thing to do. I wouldn't do that. If I had like a magic wand to be like, let's fix this the right way, I would do a breaking change and fix the whole thing. Just
Yeah.
have it
Yeah.
You know, there's never a scenario, in my opinion, where it should return the entire array. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But that said, I looked into making the PR, and despite the fact that there are other instances of this PR out there, I still was like, all right, you know, maybe he'll consider it if I look into this and make a well-reasoned argument. It broke the test suite in like a myriad of ways. So there are clearly pieces in the framework itself that rely on this, what I would call bad behavior. So I was like, there's just no way he's going to break a bunch of the rest of the framework, you know, to do this the quote unquote right way. So it felt like the docs changes the best case scenario here. So
This is kind of what I was saying before you came on, Craig, was that, you know, there's very likely that array get is being used in this specific way internally to the framework, and that just proves it. And I think that what you're saying is that it's like the right way. I don't disagree with that, but I think it's a choice. And I was saying to the guys, it's kind of ambiguous what should happen, you know, and it's dealer's choice, and Taylor and the team are the dealer, you know, so like they've gone for let's just have it do this because that's convenient to us. Yeah, it's frustrating maybe in this case, but like meh.
And to be fair too, when I said the right way, I think I threw up the air quotes, but this is an audio format, so I don't know if anyone I should say air quotes. The right way.
Is this the first podcast that you've been on?
Yes.
Look at that, guys. We're popping Craig's podcast cherry.
You know, I was going to say it, and then I was like, I'm just going to leave that one alone.
Just throw that.
My mouth gets me in trouble occasionally, so I'm gonna leave that one alone.
No one listens to this. It's only you who listens to it, Craig.
That's true. You and Tendai.
And that's just so that you know what Shane is doing.
Well,
Is he saying anything bad about me?
And the aliens are tuning in to see how close Shane is to them, so.
Yeah, they're like,
they know.
He was way off.
Who do you guys think I actually am? Read my face off.
Yeah.
I do have one thought on that aliens episode, if you guys care to.
Yeah, bring it back.
Just quickly.
Please.
We can go back to any of the previous 9 episodes now that you're here.
So, I agree mostly with what Stephen was saying. Stephen, it's nice to meet you, by the way.
You as well, Craig.
I agree mostly with what you said in the last episode. The only caveat I would put in would be that, yes, you know, if there are aliens, they're likely so far away that, you know, it doesn't matter. But 2 parts of that. One is we are assigning like our current knowledge of all these things to that assumption, right? Meaning 100 years ago, we thought physics was a very different thing than what we think it is now. So it could be just that our understanding is like incredibly basic, so we actually have no real idea. There was a second thing and I lost it, so let's just stick with the first thing.
That's okay, because Craig, this is why you and Shane must work really well together, because 20 minutes ago, he said those exact words.
Oh, all right, sorry.
I feel like this is a plot against us, Stephen. Like, they talk separately, and then they're like, let's try and get on the podcast together, and we can go as a united front. And
I feel
like,
a little outnumbered here. Let me get some backup. Hang on.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree with that stance as well. And the other thing that was mentioned about this whole topic early on in the recording of this episode was that I was totally wrong in how close, like, potentially habitable planets are in the previous episode. They're way closer than what I thought, but still they're close in the scale of the universe.
Yeah.
They're still ridiculously far away as far as humans are concerned.
So actually, to add to that, so what he was explaining earlier that you won't hear until later when you see this as published or hear it as published is basically 4 or whatever light years away would still take 7,000 years at the fastest vehicle that we've ever created as humans at 400,000 miles an hour. It would still take 7 years to get there. we're both forgetting one. This is very technical, but we're both forgetting one big thing in this. If you're going 400,000 miles an hour, how long is it going to take you to slow down to an acceptable rate to actually land on something like that? It's going to take you another maybe 5,000 years or something, right?
But what happens if some huge comet or supernova occurs in the middle and where you're going isn't there anymore?
Then
After, like,
make
2,500
sure you pack
years.
enough English tea.
Yeah.
Get the right one though,
Yeah.
because you don't.
Everybody
want to
else
start
gets
with
this reference
PG
except
tips.
Craig right now.
No idea.
I think that the interesting place to take that conversation is Simon and I were discussing this for half a second before we started recording. And it's that instead of thinking about trying to physically transport a person to another planet like this, there has to be a day when we develop technology to transmit this, our consciousness, via light to somewhere else. So that
We're
rather
already
than
working
my
on that.
physical body going there, my consciousness or someone's would go.
There is
now
one
you
other
can actually
option.
travel at the speed of light,
I like where this is
which
going.
now 4 years is actually a little bit more obtainable.
There is
And that's
one
just a
other
really
option.
powerful laser.
No, if we had the technology to keep ourselves alive, and I don't mean like in stasis, but like I can just carry on breathing and all of that, conscious thought, blah blah blah, and travel across, right? But the caveat always with that is, well, yeah, but then on Earth, because you've been traveling so fast, you know, like closer to the speed of light, and you've gone so far for such a long time, everyone's going to be like 3 times older than the distance that it's, you know, the time that it's taking you to travel that distance, or whatever the actual thing is. So let's say it's taking you 14,000 years to get there and back. In that time, everyone's been on Earth and for, 30,000 years. So not just the people that you knew, but everybody else for generations and generations are gone.
It's the interstellar problem.
Right.
But yeah, exactly that. What if they could all live forever too? Like now, it doesn't matter if it takes a billion years to get halfway across the universe and back, because they'll still be there, sipping the same cup of tea.
This is why we just need wormholes, right? I guess the solution to all this is don't travel trillions of miles. Travel
but
no
this is
distance, but
predicated
still
on
make
that
it.
we have to go fast. And I think that leaks into the way that we do things now. You know, we live for like 80 years or maybe a bit more. And, because of that, we have things like we have to travel in cars and planes, and we have to have washing machines and dishwashers and all of this stuff. It's like, if our focus was on the technology, a means to actually extend our lives without just becoming decrepit, more and more decrepit, and then actually we could lessen our reliance upon some of those conveniences, and maybe we wouldn't be in such a rush for all of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe we could sit back and just like enjoy things a little bit more.
I can't help but think also, if humans ever have the answer to this, we made contact, whatever it is, we've made it to another planet that's habitable. If they get there and they realize some horrible something about all of this, and they'll be like, those days when people would just hypothesize about what this could be on podcasts, those were the good old days. You know what I mean? Like, maybe this is as good as it gets. You never know. It keeps me grateful, I guess,
Here's a question for you guys. Have any of you seen the movie Surrogate with Bruce Willis?
Oh,
Okay, so
maybe.
The
Older?
concept,
Obviously older if it's Bruce Willis.
the concept is that in the future, humans have created these surrogate bodies, like think of robots, and you can sit in this chair and get connected to it almost. Now, granted, I haven't seen this movie in forever, but regardless, sort of a Matrix style, right? You get like plugged in, and like basically all of your sensory perception gets transmitted to this surrogate body, and then that is what you control. My question is, even like in the relative near future, if there was the opportunity for you to virtually experience a new location, think of like the purpose of a vacation, right? Where you could sit in this chair, and it wouldn't be like a perfect 100% recreation of your senses, but like pretty close. And you could control this robotic thing that would then let you experience, you know, the other side of the world, but like instantaneously. Is that something that you would pay money for, a decent amount of money, or is it so important to you that you want your physical body there that you would wait to do that? Simon, you go first. Which one?
So if for there to be like no perceptible lag, right? So we're talking about the limitations of traversing
dozens of
with
milliseconds,
informations.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, then for that perception to feel anything like reality, it would be indistinguishable from reality. So at that point, why would it be a problem which one of you goes? Because
I know why.
You're not going to be like having a dream in your head in the bed that's like lying down plugged into the machine and kind of feeling like, oh, I was there and I tasted this and I touched that wall and, you know, I petted that dog. It's going to be like, I was there. I did those things. I smelled it. I tasted it. You know,
it's a weird vacation, Simon.
I was thinking.
I love smelling things on vacation.
Where did this dog come from?
Touching the wall.
No.
Let's ground my question in a little bit more of today's technology, right? So have you guys seen like the gaming setups that are coming out where you wear a VR headset, you're on this sort of dish of a platform that you're strapped into so that you can walk and run, but you're technically stationed. Yes, thank you, Shane, for our audio-only listeners. I'm sorry you're missing his reenactment right now.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where it's at, just so you know.
Yeah, and like, so you got a VR headset on. You've got, you know, maybe some like speakers or headphones for you to get some auditory sensing. Maybe you've got a suit on that has the ability to invoke a little bit of a touch sensation, but not to the point that like your skin can. But you could still feel a little bit. And then you can like act like you're walking, and that would physically move the surrogate version, your robot, your vacation bot, wherever it is located.
Your dog sniffing
Let's kind of
bot.
ground this in today's technology. Would you pay to do something like that? All right, how about Shane? Shane, you're up. Let's see what you think.
So, to Simon's point, what's the difference between actually going and doing this versus being in where for all intents and purposes, it's like you actually went and did it? And I think that goes back to, I don't know if anyone, I've never heard anyone really talk about this, but what % of like going on a vacation is kind of for the story that you tell your coworkers, family, friends, kids, future grandkids, whatever. Look, we went here this time. Look at the pictures I got with these people that I actually was there. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was. You think no, Simon? None of it? Mm-hmm. You don't ever go on vacation you only go to vacate? Because I would just do that at home. I do staycations. I like them.
So you're saying part of the value of a
I do one every
vacation
night.
is the fact that it's kind of difficult to do, and if it becomes too accessible, where people could travel to Beijing from 9 to 10 p.m. at night, that it loses some of its value?
No. What I'm saying is I'm questioning how much value of a vacation lies in the stories that you get to tell people, the memories you actually have of having actually been someplace, the pictures you got while you were there, versus if you're in a virtual whatever and there's some, even just like a monitor person there making sure that you're breathing okay or temperature, whatever it is, right? There's got to be somebody there. They also are seeing your vacation. They are also they're part of that. And what if I want to take a picture that I just share with my whoever, significant other, or my kid, or whatever? You lose all that, right? You don't get that. So I think there is more value to going someplace in person than just feeling like you felt the wind on your face in another country or something.
Greg, what do you think?
I think it's all a matter of perspective, and honestly, in a lot of ways, kind of similar to the way I described, like, our understanding of physics being different 100 years ago. I think if you had asked people 100 years ago if having this conversation with the four of us across a screen would count, air quotes are being put up, would it, count? Would it be as real? I think they would have said a similar thing to what Shane just did, which is like, the value is being there with a person and interacting and picking up on their, visual cues and non-visual cues and whatever. But I think that what Stephen has proposed is something that, like, at first would be weird, but you would very quickly get used to. And I don't think it would matter at a certain point. People who had experienced the old way might pine for the old way. But I think that's very quickly just replaced by people that didn't know the old way and know the new way and love it.
I agree. I actually think, Shane, you weren't intending to go this route, but I actually think this is a really interesting aspect of this conversation. And that is, I do think, like many other things, a lot of the value of a vacation is the fact that it's a scarce opportunity, right? It's like not something that you can do willy-nilly. Like an analogy I can think of is access to information. 100 years ago, if I wanted to learn, whatever, we'll keep it grounded in our conversation today, where the nearest solar system was with like an Earth-like planet, it could take me weeks to find the right library that had the right book that might contain some information to tell me that. So discovering that answer would be really valuable to me. I had to put a lot of effort into it and make probably some sacrifices. So like the intrinsic value is a lot higher versus now it took me 7 seconds to do a Google search and get the answer. So it's not as rewarding, I guess, to like get that discovery. Another analogy I can think of is cars, right? Like, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, it was really valuable to everybody to be living within very close proximity to one another because of the ability to travel, to, be with the others in your community and to have commerce and information exchange. That's becoming less and less valuable. We're seeing more and more suburban sprawl because cars and just transportation in general makes it so much easier to travel the distance than it would have been, whatever, a couple hundred years ago, that like the value in that is slightly less. And I really think it would be interesting sitting here thinking, like, if I could get a little bit of the, like, whatever, 40-50% of the sensory experience of traveling to the other side of the world, something that would take me tens of hours and a lot of effort and a lot of money to experience, but I could do it in the matter of seconds by just like putting on this suit, putting on a VR headset, and I might be able to go walk downtown Singapore, a place I'd actually really like to go, and I could do that for literally an hour just sitting in my chair. Does that lose how much? Because I think it would. How much of that experience would lose its value doing it that way versus physically being there because it's now so accessible?
And to add to that too, look, if the question is, would you do this? Hell yeah, I would do that. If I could go to, like you said, whatever, Singapore, Japan, whatever, for an hour every night just to hang out, for sure. I would not call that vacationing though. And I would want to do a real vacation in real life. Mm-hmm. I would still as a human want to go experience this as a human.
For me, all of this, like, I totally agree. the fundamental thing is the experience, right? It's not about what you can say to other people or the trinkets that you come back with or whatever. Like all those things you can make up. People do. Like I went and traveled the world and I did all these great things and they just sat in their living room, whatever. But to actually experience it and know that you've had that experience is completely self-indulgent. There's nothing like for anybody else's benefit. And if you're not experiencing it fully, and this is what the key point for me is, it can't be 50%, it can't be 75%, it can't even be 99%. If it's not 100%, it's not the real deal, right? And I'm gonna know that. Not like even like consciously, I know that I didn't really properly do this with my physical body, right? If it's not
Wait,
like
but hold on.
But wait,
I got it.
Hang on. No. I
have such a good question.
I'm like, the point is that if it was 100%, then it would be indistinguishable, right? So then it doesn't matter. But if it's not, then it's not even remotely close enough. Like even if it was 99.9.
I refute your statement. I refute. So let me play devil's advocate, Simon. I don't think it's 100%. I think it's something less than that. And I think what's interesting is the nuance of what that percentage is. For example, take anywhere that you would want to go right now, the vacation, right? And imagine that you have plopped there, but all of a sudden you have come down, let's call it an illness. You come down with a little illness and you completely lose the ability to smell. You have now lost the ability to have 100% of the experience. Would you still consider
No,
that?
Then it's like saying the six main senses that we have represent everything of an experience, and you divide our bodies up equally into like 12.5%
but what I'm getting at here
chunks
is
of like experience, and that's not the case.
But I'm just trying to make the point that I don't think it requires 100% of what your senses can take in to get this sense of fulfillment that you're talking about. It's something less. And what
it's not even fulfillment, I don't think.
Craig is like, this is what you do when you're not working. Seriously?
Yeah, right. He's like,
No, I'm just
you're wasting
like,
billable hours for this.
Hey, I'm actually supposed to be on a call with a client right now.
I shouldn't be laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. Wait a minute, Craig.
Wait,
we're both going to drop off of this. Actually,
let me leave you with this. I was considering. I was kind of laughing. I think Steven's got a good point. Like, you lose your sense of smell, you're down X percentage. But I get what Simon's saying. Like that's sort of reductive to break it down to, whatever percentage. But I don't know about you guys, but like if I was looking at my senses as like they were 100% when I was 18, I'm kind of scared to put a number to that. Like,
right?
They're really, really bad at this point. So, like, I don't experience anything 100%.
Yes, but your experience, your experience today is no less human than it was when you were 18.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, despite the fact that my eyes are now terrible, my hearing has been terrible for a long time, I still have 100% vacations, or at least I like to think so. So anyway, I gotta run. I gotta get on this call with this client. I appreciate you guys pulling me in. This is a great first podcast experience.
We'll do this again sometime that's actually scheduled.
Thanks, Craig. I'll talk to you in a bit.
It's good to see you, man.
See you, Craig. See you.
I think we're all trying to say, though, we want to get into this business because people will pay for this regardless.
I think that's what I'm trying to say, though. I think this is one of those businesses that should not exist.
Sure. That shouldn't.
No, that
but
should
someone
not
will.
exist.
But someone will make it
Someone
if it
might,
can be made.
but I'm afraid that it will fundamentally ruin like one of these things we do as humans that we have so much.
But you're talking from a
value
place
in.
of privilege where you can do this stuff very readily. So, like, I kind of feel like
This is true.
I'm talking against myself a little bit because on the one hand, I'm not for it. And on the other hand, I can kind of understand. Like, people who physically cannot travel, to another location to experience it. Maybe in some way vicariously they can experience it through Google Earth, or whatever, Street View. And I know people personally firsthand who have done that because they're disabled, in ways that they cannot travel. And they go, I love to go on Google and I, zoom over the planet, and then I zoom in, and then I'm on street level and I'm looking around, and it's like, yeah, but you're not experiencing it in the same way. But I'm not going to decry you that. Exactly. It's the best they can do with the technology we have right now. And the technology, as it advances, is just like inching closer, like better and better fidelity, right? Of that kind of thing. And that will be great and increasingly better for a good proportion of people. If I can do the real thing, though, would I replace it with this, let's be honest, mediocre alternative right now? No, not really. I want to be there. I want to be the one to experience it for myself, with as much senses as I've got and whatever range of quality they're still up to, because for me, that is 100%. It doesn't matter whether it was 100% compared to me 20 years ago or whatever. I don't think you can even really quantify that. I think you just go, I am 100% me right now, and I am 100% in this experience, and whatever senses are available to my consciousness, it's absorbing everything about the environment, the smells, the sounds, the everything. And that is, you just can't beat that. I don't think you're going to be able to beat that.
But it's a viable business idea, I think.
Oh, I totally.
People will pay money for this.
People will pay.
People pay. Look,
10% or 20% of the way, for sure.
If I could pay whatever reasonable amount of money to be on, like when Jeff Bezos went up to space, to just watch a live stream recording of that, right? I would do that. People pay per view. That's been a thing, just to watch a boxing game back in 1995. Boxing game. I don't know if that's a real thing, but
video games. Oh, sorry, video games are very synonymous. I'm thinking about. I would like to fly. Right? Shane has the opportunity to be a physical pilot, which is awesome. Right? I would like to be able to do that. The closest I can get right now is either bum a ride off of him, or more realistically, I can boot up Microsoft Flight Simulator, get 5% of the experience, but that still has some value to me.
Yeah,
and so
Windows machine
we're really
too.
talking about taking that to the next level. It's a real life video game. And I just totally see the day when tourists no longer, this would be the name of the company, right? Tourists are no longer actual human beings walking around Rome, right, to experience
a bunch of robots.
Pantheon. It's these little Boston Dynamic robots walking around.
No, but you could do that today without the robots and all of that hyper connectivity, right? Because you could just say to some person, like a kid in China, take this phone, I'm going to tell you where to go, and you just go everywhere.
No, but but more sensory beyond that.
That's the MVP.
Right? So it's the suit that you're wearing. It's the
Mechanical
audio.
Turk version.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you could try to get as close with as many of your senses as possible, and then being in control of this robot that has its own sensors, right, to collect this information and pass it along to your local
environment.
What
would suck about that though is if you're walking around downtown Rome as a tourist, you're seeing a whole bunch of other robots walking around downtown Rome.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. This is what I'm getting at. Yeah. And then it would
Damn
be
tourists.
It'd be like the scooter graveyards, right, that are hitting big cities now, where you've got Lime and all of the other scooter manufacturers, and you just see scooters get abandoned all over. I just see Boston Dynamic robots just getting left, in the
Leaning
middle
up
of a
against
railroad.
lampposts. Yeah.
So, for time's sake,
for an hour. Yes.
We're gonna change the subject because we do have a time thing today. So we were gonna talk about this earlier. We got a little distracted. Go figure. I want to talk about Tendai's question, and we'll all have a chance here. So this is actually a couple weeks ago. We didn't record the week of
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, thank you. And I think it was around that time, but I didn't notice the message until the other day when I was looking at this. But Tendai Karuma, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, asked a couple questions here. When we were talking about business and like what got us into coding, if we know so much about business, et cetera, his question here is, are all of your businesses code or software related? Is it a good thing to be involved in something completely different business-wise? He goes on to say, great episode, team. I really enjoyed every bit of it. I started off coding, and now I am trying to start a business. I have a degree in business management and IT, but it's so hard to set up a business. So let's do a round robin here. Stephen, is it a good thing to be involved in something completely different than just code, business code, or software-related businesses?
This is a little bit of a tough one for me because, right, I kind of see both sides, I think. On one hand, I'm like, yeah, the opportunity to become familiar with businesses that are not related to code, but that still help you understand some of the fundamentals of like, what do people want? How can I translate that into a digital or physical or service product? How can I think about pricing? How can I think about support? How can I think about the financials of it? That is all really valuable experience. And even in a way, I feel like there would be a little bit of a Da Vinci element to this, where being experienced, having some exposure to various types of businesses helps you do any business a little bit better, because you're kind of pulling in things from multiple threads rather than this a little bit more closed in perspective. On the other hand, I'm thinking, boy, Simon saying you're speaking from a place of privilege is just ringing in my mind right now, because
nice hair, buddy.
In America, it's quite a bit easier for us to get going with business or to become a part of some of these businesses than it is in other parts of the world. Time is finite, so you can't do everything. And I do think the sword can be sharper if you try to do like too many disparate things, but at a very superficial, thin level, than being really targeted, focused, and going way deep into that rabbit hole and becoming an expert of that thing. So I'm not really sure what my answer here wants to be. I think like I'm almost my answer wants to be it's both, but the more important question is where to start. And I think if you believe that your best chance of a viable business, and let's face it, every business is a matter of risk. If your best chance to a viable business is going to be related to tech, code, stuff like that, it just has to make the most sense to start there and focus on what it means to be a code-based, tech-based business. But then eventually trying to expand out a little bit. And you can do this in the form of sitting on an advisory board, being a board member, volunteering. I've done stuff before where I've volunteered at a gym to just like get some experience of dealing one-on-one with customers, and I don't know, like lots of different things. And you can try to do that once the opportunity and time presents itself. But yeah, sorry, that's a difficult question. It is. Yeah. Please let me hand over the mic. Somebody else talk.
Simon, what do you think about this?
Well, I agree with Stephen, and it is tricky because.
How do you agree with Stephen? He doesn't agree with himself.
Yeah, no, I mean in the general, like, discussion that he's wrapped himself up in, like a nice
It's so
little blanket.
nuanced.
It is. I
And
think
complex.
you've got to understand the context of the person who's asking the question a little bit better. Like, are you a young person who doesn't have loads of experience and you've got all these ideas of being an entrepreneur, you know, and you've never really gone into business before? Or are you somebody who's like been an employee and now you want to start, you know, for 10, 20 years and now you want to start your own thing? Like, all of those things are going to change what the answer should be for you. I think there was something I was thinking of. I think it was Justin Jackson, our wonderful and unexpectedly short host, who was tweeting about some business. I think it was like a cafe or like a trade. Oh, I can't remember exactly what one it was. It was like some shop, some local service business that he went to, and saying how like the people there really enjoy what they're doing, you know, effectively, and like it's hard, but they or something like to that effect. You know, it's like any business will do, any business can work, but if it's not something that you're going to enjoy doing, probably don't do it, because it's going to be really, really hard, because there's always hard bits in a business. There's always bits that you don't want to do. You know, like even Stephen and I were talking just before this of like doing accounts and not wanting to do accounts. It's like, yeah, it's not related to the enjoyable work, but you've got to do it. And every business has a bunch of those things, and pretty much they're exactly the same in every business. So you're going to get that no matter what business you start or try and run. I think you've got to know a little bit like what you enjoy doing. And if you don't know that and you're trying to find that thing, then kind of try a bit of everything. But to Stephen's point, you know, do that by volunteering, or like don't try and set up 100 different businesses so that you can try all these things out, because you haven't got enough time really to do that and do that well. And like you can try those things out without getting that involved or embroiled in whatever, you know, that would require of you. And yeah, I think so to from my point of view, I'm kind of getting to a bit more of a clear answer, because I think from my experience, this is where I've ended up. It's like, I know that I don't want to start a non-software business. At the moment, there's nothing attractive to me about, say, a clothing store or a cafe or whatever. Like, have I thought about doing those things? Yeah. Have I looked into doing them? Yeah. But I'm not gonna do them because they're just not close enough to the core of what I know that I'm going to enjoy. And I really enjoy doing software. And, you know, the other problems that come from running a business like that are similar to any other business, I still have to face. So I'm not missing out by not doing those other businesses.
Yeah. Shane?
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to this, I think. And you both raise good points. Like, it does depend where, like, who is even asking this. What is actually the goal here, too? Is it to try to be as rich as you can, as fast as you can? Are you just looking for life experiences? Because then the answer is always yes. Is it a good thing to be involved in something? ... Doesn't matter what the question is after that, right? Yes.
Yeah,
go do it. This is life, right? Like, I like the second that just passed, we'll never get that back again. And that's kind of my mentality throughout a lot of the things that I do. Like, I want to, see? And that one's gone too. Oh my God. This is how it feels falling into yourself.
Damn it, I'm wasting them.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Are you though? Because what if you can invest the next one into the following, right? So that's kind of like at some point in my probably early 20s, and I think a lot of people are in a similar state where they get to this point where they're like, I'm not going to be here forever. I do want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, or at least have a great time trying. And, you know, like that helps define who you are, I think, because we all have different answers as to what we want to do, what we're trying to do. And maybe we are privileged where we can just kind of say, I don't know what tomorrow is, but I know it's going to be fun because I'm going to make sure that it is. Whereas other people are trying to take care of their sick parents or some other desperate, like where they don't have that privilege, the time or the energy
freedom
or ability to go and do as they please. Not that we can all do as we please, but you know what I'm saying. I look at my involvement with other companies and software development. First of all, it's hard. I'd be hard pressed to find any business venture that doesn't revolve or touch technology software to some degree. So that being set aside, I guess being a doctor or some other trade, and even then you're still involved with technology, but you don't need to write software to do the job properly. So outside of anything like that, I can't really think of an example. I did own a vending machine company last year for like a year. Don't do that. But one of the reasons why I really got into it, I used to do sales. I used to do door-to-door sales. I used to do B2B sales, business to business. I love interacting with people one-on-one. I love reading a person. I love seeing if what I've got, and I wasn't a pushy sales guy. I was like, look, some people, this isn't the right product for you. And like getting to that, like understanding with many people throughout the day, many days in a row, many weeks, many years, having done that. And then at some point getting to the part where I was training other people, giving other people the tools and empowering them to go out and be good salesmen, et cetera. So, and I look at that as a separate career that I had. And now I can apply that experience and that skill set to my life today, not just with software. I mean, that's probably the more significant part. Is everything is a sale, right? You're always trying to see what it takes to get what you want the next thing to be, and how do I make my offering as attractive as possible. So not only am I like not begging people for this, but they're begging me to have what I'm, you know what I mean? And there's that whole psychology around positioning yourself or your words or your colors in the right way on a screen to track the sale through to the cart, to the credit card number, and ultimately getting that money into the bank account and calling that a win, a success, etc. Capitalism. Hurrah. I look at there's several companies that I'm involved in that I have used technology and my ability to write software as my equity buy-in to gain that position in that company. So a lot of people will come to the plate with $5,000 or $50,000 or $100,000, whatever it is, to buy into a company where I'm like, I've got 6 months of time that I can dedicate, 5 hours a week or so to building this out. And that's my stake in the company. And that's been, I hate to say a waste of time, because experience is worth its weight in gold, which doesn't make any sense because experience isn't a physical thing. I've gained a lot of experience doing that, enough to know like when to say no to some things and when I want to say yes to some things. It has been fruitful, but not probably to the extent of my investment of time. So, but it's just the way that I'm built, I guess, though. I keep looking for these opportunities. I get hungry looking for that. I just thrive on finding an opportunity where I can invest my time, build out, solve some problem along the way, write some clean, cool, new Laravel 12 code or something with our Get helpers done properly or something. And now I have 10%, 15%, 25%, whatever it is in some company that could make millions of dollars. And I get part of that. Yeah. So
I think just going back to the original question, and knowing that Tendai is kind of based in, a part of the world where these things are a bit trickier and there's not that much access and blah, blah, blah. I think one of the things there is specifically around setting up a business. Don't feel like you've got to set up the legal entity in the right way necessarily to actually build a business. Like oftentimes you can be earning money, like building the core of the business, like the service offering. Yeah, maybe
not though.
Not always, but in some cases it's possible to do this without having to have the legal entity right from the beginning. and you can develop that stuff along the way, you know, as like you start to get some paying customers and some income, and then you can go, right, well, now this thing is going, so I can set this up. So you don't have to think of like, I need to get all of these ducks in a row before I can even start, which means I've got to invest loads of time and potentially a ton of money or a chunk of money up front, because you might not have to do that. And there are, particularly in software, I think there's a lot more opportunities where you can do it in that kind of, it just evolves into a proper business than if you were, say, trying to set up a cafe, you know, where you've got to get licenses and you've got to get approvals and all of these kinds of things for the different products and stuff that you're going to sell, and you've got to invest in stock and machinery and blah blah blah. So it's just like, for me, software has always been like the much easier option, because I've already got, you know, the laptop, and I've already got
Laravel herd
and my fingers. So I'm okay. But as I say, that not legal advice. So
yeah,
sorry, go on.
Bring
Steve.
it full circle for me to specifically answer Tendai's question as it was presented, and as Shane already pointed out, if you have the opportunity to get involved with other types of businesses, I would do it within reason, but I would try to stay focused on what your core expertise can be, and maybe even specifically on people that are in Tendai's kind of situation, though I have seen this be very successful in the US and other parts of the world as well. One of the best ways to do that as a developer is to try to collaborate, get involved with some businesses, generally smaller ones, in your local community that are not using technology to make them more efficient, right? If you know any company that is still using a spreadsheet-like piece of software, you can probably try to get involved with them to turn that into a filament-type project. And now you're working up, even though you might be working directly for them or just as a contractor or whatever, you're still kind of building up the essence of a business, and also getting exposure into what that other company is doing, learning a little bit more about how they work. Business at the end of the day is having something of value that somebody else is willing to pay for. And there's so much foundational stuff to get good at that is really important on top of, all of these other things that you can get exposure to. So, yeah, that's where I will stop talking.
Very good. This was a great surprise. This was a fun episode, I would say.
This was.
And keep the questions coming, even if it's just from Tendai. We'll get to it, even if it's a couple weeks later. We will get to it. We appreciate it, for sure.
What can we do as like a test now to see if Craig has listened all this way through the episode?
I know he has. He talks to me like every Tuesday, Wednesday.
No, really?
Yeah, he listens to all of them.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love you, Craig.
Craigie poo.
So, I know. Here's my test. You have to send me a message on Telegram. That's it.
Easy enough.
All right.
Easy enough.
And we'll close on that to see if he goes all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
For next episode, we need to do a little more homework, and I gotta look at this crazy U.S. Congress hearing on UFO stuff. I'm still not so sure how I feel about the idea of that. So I started watching the first 60 seconds of it and was already losing interest, but we'll see.
So
Shane's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That ship has long sailed.
what are you talking about? No, this is like
In our last episode, we were talking about, or I don't know if it was the last one, whatever.
no, watch it.
Recently, we were talking about aliens and what we thought about the fact that supposedly people have concrete evidence of interaction.
Our government
in the upper echelons of the US
Yes.
government has
Our
been
government.
fingered by an alien. Yeah, we know. Let's just say it like it is, right?
and you shared some links, and I didn't get a chance to look at the links yet. So we'll maybe do that for next week. And
I would love to hear your opinion on it.
Okay.
We didn't talk about pizza.
We don't have enough time in
No,
any
not
episode
today.
for me to get
Today.
talking about pizza.
That'll be a Christmas episode or something.
But maybe on one episode I'll just be here eating pizza, and that'll be as close as we can get.
Oh, that would be a great. Let's just not even talk. Let's just sit here eating slices
eat
of pizza.
Just munching away.
You gotta mail us your favorite slice.
Yeah, pizza special. All right, guys, let's go ahead and I think wrap it up there. Shane,
right.
Feel free to do your thing.
So, Tendai, if you liked any or all of this episode, tell Craig how much. Just write a comment of, that'd be a great test. Tendai, write a comment mentioning Craig in the YouTube video and see if Craig responds. There you go, to your comment, and then take a screenshot and mail it in to us. This is awesome. Eventually, I'll have like one of those if you want to go down the left hallway, turn to page 54, and adventure by page. Those are fun. Anyway, if you like this, please share. Get us out there. We're small and we're growing, and that's cool. Like we're doing it just to hang out for the most part anyway. But we'd love to have other people jump in, surprise us on a podcast sometime, and just have a guest speaker that's random. That'd be fun. We can go like Omegle or something and share a screen. No, that's probably not a good idea. But, never mind. As soon as I thought that, never mind. So yeah. So until next week, thanks a lot for listening in, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Catch you next week. Bye.